My name is Sarain Fox, and I am the host of Rise on Viceland, but I'm also an activist, Anishinaabe woman, and advocate for my people. So I grew up in an extremely politically active family. I was raised by a single mom who really worked hard to reclaim our traditional knowledge so that I would grow up in my own culture, which is actually a really big deal as a Anishinaabe Ojibwe woman. And she always told me that it was really important that I date Native. And I don't think that she meant it in a exclusive way, but it definitely came off that way in my childhood. This idea that I needed to be with a Native person so that I could pass on the same kinds of traditions that she had fought so hard for me to have. And I took it very seriously. So what that meant for me in my life, as an artist especially, I was on the road a lot. I went to university in New York City, and it meant that no matter who I met, no matter who I was dating, I always felt like it was never going to be permanent or forever, because in the back of my mind, even if I really liked someone, I was always thinking, you're not the one, because I can't be with you forever because you're not Native or you don't know my traditions. But also because we're still under the Indian Act in Canada, if I'm almost full and my partner's almost full, then our kids would be full status. And that means that they could make whatever decision they want to make, and their children would still be at least half, and have treaty rights. But if I marry a non-Indigenous person, then they only have status from one side, and their children, that's the end of the line. There's no more status after that. So no more treaty rights, no more hunting rights, like all of the things that I hold so dear to me, my grandchildren potentially would not be able to partake in based on the laws of our government, maybe not based in practice. But the other thing is also just strictly heritage. In my lodge, if you marry in, then your kids get to sort of have all these stories of their families and their ancestral knowledge. And, I've always imagined maybe I would find someone who had a great line of warriors and I would be able to tell that story. And it was quite romanticized, to be honest.
But then Sarain did find someone. She met a man online. Eventually, they got engaged. And Sarain's fiancé fit the image of what she wanted to a T, at least on the surface.
I found someone who was almost full-blood Navajo. Literally the guy that you think, oh, this is a Native warrior. That was really fun and amazing to find that. And then it sort of unraveled, because the unintended consequence of me being so obsessed with this vision, this dream I had, was that I was blinded by it. And it made it so that I didn't ask all the right questions. I really didn't get to know this person in the way that I would have got to know even a friend. I just dove in thinking that this was my path, and here I am. Religion became a huge conversation in this relationship. He was a Mormon, and so all of a sudden, my perfect engagement relationship, which on the outside looked so Indigenous, on the inside was riddled with a very deep, conflicting conversation of spirituality versus religion. And I believe in respecting everyone. Like, the last thing I want to do is tell someone they can't be who they are, because in me, that has been so traumatic in my family. But missionizing is the reason why I have these beliefs about continuing my culture, because we were told that we couldn't be who we are. And so I'm not sure how I got myself, my own self, into a place where my love was now missionizing me.
That realization led Sarain to leave the relationship with the man she thought was her dream partner. And then she just dove into work.
I really wanted to work the most that I could and not focus on relationships and just sort of be in my element. And wasn't it great that there was someone I worked with who was beautiful and right in front of my eyes and had been for many years. But there was a pivotal moment where I looked up and I saw this person and I realized, wow, you're a really beautiful spirit. And I really want to get to know you as a human outside of work. So the person was nothing like I had ever imagined would be my life partner, my potential life partner, because she's a woman, which was not a part of my original plan. It wasn't off my radar, but definitely wasn't in the fairy tale that I thought was going to be my life. And she's almost entirely Irish, so not Indigenous at all. And I think if I hadn't had my other relationship, I wouldn't have been able to step up to the plate and say, yep, I'm going to give this my absolute everything and make it work. You have to really decide what your family's going to look like. And so we've talked about adoption. There are so many Indigenous children who are in need of homes, of a good home that would provide them with their culture and access to all of their traditional ways, something I know I can offer. And I've also had a very tough conversation with my love. Her name is Tara. And we've talked about all different kinds of ways that we can make babies. And she's on board for me still having an Indigenous donor, as we would call them, or an Indigenous bloodline being passed through me so that I would still be able to carry a full status baby, which sounds so strange to me now. But also, we've talked about the fact that I have a little bit of Irish blood in me too. And so maybe finding a donor who has some Irish blood could be a part of that. So she's included in the conversation too. And surprisingly, that's something that feels really right and true and good to me now. Being status, having a status number was something I was obsessed with. It felt like it would make me authentic. It would make my children authentic. It would be it was part of a status quo. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that the whole idea that I would be identified by a number, it makes me emotional. The idea that I've been obsessed with a government system that makes me just a number and makes my blood what makes me authentic and my blood be what I have to pass down to my children for them to be authentic is a really alarming concept. And as I've gotten older and maybe wiser, it's been something that I've become more and more uncomfortable with. I have to be really respectful to all of my Indigenous relatives, but also to my mom, because I think she's still adjusting to my 180, if you want to call it. And she's my biggest inspiration. So it was really important for me that she be okay with this new life path that I'm on. And she is. She loves Tara.